All right.
All right, this is Kill You Last. I'm Peter Garacci.
I'm Alex Bashera.
And we have
Tait Winston.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I cut you off. I cut you right off, Peter.
I regret that we didn't record the first 10 minutes of fucking setting this up because that's probably the funniest part of this podcast. Yeah. Finally, Tait, from an undisclosed location.
Yes.
A lot of soundproofing so the feds can't track your movements.
Facts.
But
that's right.
Excited to finally have you in here, man. Welcome.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, for sure. We've been wanting to do this for a while, but I think all three of us are in New Jersey. Is that right?
Oh,
I don't have to say where, but I think are all three of us in Jersey right now?
That's an unfortunately factual statement.
Unfortunate reality.
I might. This might be it for me. I might just be this guy. I might just live. There's been a lot of barbecuing, a lot of bike riding, and a lot of America fuck yeah for me since lockdown. So
nice, that's fantastic. Yeah, I think we all know that.
But yeah, so let's get into it, man. You picked a fucking great movie that I've been dying to do.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man, I picked Full Metal Jacket. It's just a super powerful movie.
Yeah,
super powerful movie. I think the reason I picked it because it was super influential. It just changed the way that I perceived filmmaking and what movies are, and definitely what a war film is. I think I was watching a bunch of just like kind of like America fuck yeah, like propaganda films where they're just like get the Charlies in the tree, and that's all
sure
well and good, but it's kind of propaganda and it doesn't really tell a war story. So my pops was like, I was pretty young, man, probably technically too young, but I was like 12 or so. I was like 11 or 12, and I was watching all these movies, maybe younger, maybe 10 or 11. And my pops was like, okay, well, you want to see a war movie? Watch this.
Wow. Yeah, no, I think I got a lot of feelings about this movie. I mean, first of all, I want to I love when a guest picks a movie I actually want to watch. There's been a few really great ones, a few stinkers lately, honestly, and this one was great. It was a great rewatch. I watched it twice over the past few days just because.
Oh damn!
I think the first half of this movie is so entertaining. It's hilarious. It's like scary at points.
Yeah, it's morbid. It's like sad.
Yeah,
it's very sad for me. That's the primary emotion that registered with the first half of that film. Was just like feeling such sympathy for this poor kid.
Private Pile. Right.
Yeah, for Vince D'Onofrio. Shouts to Vince D'Onofrio.
Shout out.
He is a monster.
His breakout. I remember hearing a long time ago that he just somebody knew him and was like, hey, I want you to audition for this movie. Like they want like an unknown actor. And like for this, I think this might be, after Adventures in Babysitting, that was his first. He plays like the Thor guy in Adventures in Babysitting. I don't know if you guys remember that, but he has he's like in that movie for 45 seconds, and it's basically just because he's a big guy.
Because he's just like a big tubby,
just like huge. And so this was like his breakout, and I like this movie isn't like this might be the most upsetting movie that we've done on this podcast. Like his character and like the arc of his character to me, like it's really horrifying.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking, and he does such an incredible job just morphing.
Oh yeah,
just changing into like that sinister psychopathic
killing machine.
Yeah, he does the classic Kubrick stare. Every Kubrick film has the top of the eyes.
There it is. Oh shit! Take your scare in our viewers
with the smile and shit because that's what. No, but Jack Nicholson does that in The Shining. Yep. They do it in Clockwork Orange. I think he even has Tom Cruise do it in Vanilla Sky. It's crazy. It's like or Eyes Wide Shut. Eyes Wide Shut.
That's a good point. That he does like people looking like vacant like that. That's
but also that forward, sinister, just that kind of like you've lost all.
Yeah, I mean that's basically the poster for a lot of the movies. You know, like that's The Shining and Clockwork Orange. That's basically 100%. That's like the most lasting image. Yeah, this I don't remember. I feel like I was aware of Kubrick by the time I saw this. But it's weird when you look at his filmography. Like he does The Shining, which is actually a hit. Then he doesn't do a movie for 7 years, does this, then doesn't do another movie for 12 years. For two generations of people, like this is their Stanley Kubrick movie.
Yeah, right. 100%.
And it's a weird one because it doesn't really. I don't know. I'm a huge Kubrick guy, and he's one of my fucking heroes. I love Kubrick. I go back and watch the movies. I don't know how I have feelings about this movie as a movie unto itself, but I don't know how I feel about it as a Kubrick movie, if that makes sense. I don't it's just one of those where it's probably the one that I have the most mixed emotions about. If that, like The Shining, I just flat out fucking love. Like Clockwork Orange, like the first half.
Yeah, I mean, The Shining doesn't start with like racial slurs and like graphic. Like, I mean, there's just such a tremendous difference between the vibe of all of his other films, and I think this film, like, evokes a lot more like disgust and confusion and shock. Primarily shock. He's really good at building fear and suspense, but the shock value of how just grotesque and terrible everything is in the language. These drill sergeants, that dude who ended up being in the Texas Chainsaw Massacres and whatnot. So he was the dude that was training the actor on how to play a drill sergeant. And Kubrick was like, yo, fuck this. Let's just get this dude.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah, he's like, fuck this, bro. This dude is the real deal. Why are we going to use anything else? This doesn't make sense. This guy is doing exactly what we want to do, and this other dude's trying to replicate it. Like, nah, let's just get him.
That is definitely...
The dude was actually a Paris Island drill instructor.
That's crazy. That is definitely why Kubrick is, a legend, because he makes decisions like that. Because
Atkins, D'Onofrio, like all those were both. He's going out on a limb.
Right, right. But the drill sergeant, completely makes this movie.
Yeah, that's Arlie.
I will twist off your head and shit down your throat.
Apparently,
there's so many, dude.
The one thing I heard is that he actually is Arlie Ermy. He wasn't actually that intense in real life, and Kubrick's like, no, I want more. Like, I want you to be meaner and
Kubrick
shittier, and he made him he made him practice like being as big of an asshole as he could possibly be. Yeah, that's what they like.
Bro, the quotables just from that intro scene alone. I will gouge out your eyes and skull fuck you. Like, dude, that is insane. The shit that he says, it's outrageous.
I think everyone I went to high school with knew, like, this is my rifle, this is my gun. Like, there's a lot of stuff in this, and I feel like this was a movie. This was a movie that, like, 14-year-olds and 16-year-olds were watching and getting on one level, and then you go back to it older and you're like, oh shit, this movie.
Yeah, I think imagine watching that movie as like a vet. You know what I mean? Like, having even a quasi similar experience. I mean, for sure, a similar experience in many respects, and like, that's got to be so disturbing and intense. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, and this was like 87. Like, by then you have like Rocky IV. You have a lot of like rah movies, and then this comes out again. Like, Kubrick's like disappeared. Like, no one knows where this guy went.
And then suddenly all of a sudden he drops such a powerful anti-war film, though. You know what I mean? Like, it's incredible.
And like Matthew Modine, who's the star of the movie Joker, like, he was a huge star. I think sometimes like
he's great in this.
Yeah, he's really great. He's a great actor, and he's still around. He might be on Strange Things or something. He's doing something.
You mean Stranger Things?
Oh yeah, is it what I say?
He might be one of them strange things.
You're literally like you're someone's mom, dude.
I think he's doing one of those internet TVs. He's doing TV on the internet.
I think he's on Stranger Stuff.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw him on the Netflix.
My parents put on Bohemian Rhapsody a little while ago, and my mom's like, Peter, did you know that Freddy Krueger died? I had no idea. I was like,
come on, really?
I swear
Freddy Krueger died of AIDS.
Wow, Freddy Krueger was gay. Holy shit.
No, and then my dad's like, what's going on? And my mom's like, he's bisexual. And then I just left the room.
I want to ride my bisexual.
So I'm definitely I'm becoming that. I've been spending way too much time around my parents. I'm becoming that. I think I saw it on the internet, but no, Matthew Modine is fucking great in this movie, and he was like a teenage star for a while. There was a lot of like Kubrick like auditioned a ton of people, like brought in a lot of young actors for this movie, and it's good to have a lot of like unfamiliar faces because they seem more authentic. You know,
I always think that's true.
If it's like having Tom Cruise in this movie, you're like, oh god.
Having stars in your movie, especially something that is like supposed to be sort of like a powerful message, it always fucks it up for me. I like having a bunch of nobodies, people that haven't acted together, things like that. For sure, it makes it better.
People will be like, well, that's not true for war movies because what about Apocalypse Now? And you're like, bitch, that's what made half of those dudes famous.
Exactly.
That's what Laurence Fishburne is, a 16-year-old boy in that film. What are you talking? That's Morpheus, God.
And even Martin Sheen. It's like he'd been around for a little while, but like a lot. It was a lot.
Well, Martin Sheen was a star, but he was the star of the film, so that made sense. Just like homeboy from Full Metal Jacket was pretty prominent at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it's especially when you have like a crew with a cast of a bunch of young actors. It's hard because you want them to be good. but if they're already big, it throws off the balance of the movie. You can't. Like Kubrick, like famously did not give a shit about actors, and like they were big kind of props. So I'm sure he'd much rather work with guys who are just happy to be there, just want to do the fuck. And I can't imagine being like a 20-something actor in Hollywood, and you heard like this legend of Stanley Kubrick, and all of a sudden you get a call. You're like, hey, Stanley Kubrick wants you to be in his movie. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
it's
like unheard of at that time. I remember it just being like, it's just that stretch of like 20 years, like only making one movie in 20-something years is fucking crazy.
Yeah, but that's G shit. That's G shit because he's putting that much time and effort into.
Well, he famously he felt like he was a failure because he didn't make more movies. Like he hated the fact that he worked so slowly, but he was such a perfectionist that he would do like research for years, and at a certain point he would give up on. Like he wanted to do a Holocaust movie. And then Spielberg came out with Schindler's List. He's like, oh shit, I guess I got to throw out my fucking Holocaust movie now.
Yeah.
Like literally, he's like Spielberg had the idea and executed the entire film in the time that I was still doing research.
He spent mad time on 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
And that movie's a fucking masterpiece.
That might be my favorite. That's the one I go back to all. I still can't.
Well, because he had so much respect for Arthur C. Clarke too. That was the thing, was that he it didn't live up completely to the book in terms of format or whatever, but he still wanted to honor what a visionary that dude was.
Yeah. And Kubrick, like almost all of his books are based on movies, which is not even like considered like a literary, like these are not considered literary movies, but they're almost all of them based on novels. And these were hits too. Like 2001 was a monster hit. So to imagine that movie coming out now and being a huge hit, it's fucking insane. Like 1968, people are like, let's go see this space movie. Like, wonder what this is about. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to start talking about something in Full Metal Jacket that I liked. So if I was interrupting you.
No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So one thing I appreciated about this film, and I think is not an accident, which is interesting. I think that the only character in the boot camp that has any sense of individuality is Joker. And right. So like he's like kind of like making asides and speaking out and like gets yelled at because he's like making jokes or whatever. That's why he calls him Joker. But he's the only person in boot camp that has humanity, like outside of the name that the sergeant or whatever the drill instructor gives him. So I think that that's not an accident. I think that, like, I don't know.
He's the only one that calls Pyle Leonard.
Right. And he teaches Leonard individuality. And that's ironic and interesting because Leonard and Pyle finding out his own individuality is actually what causes him to, I think, kill him at the end of to kill the drill instructor. Because
he's expressing his individuality right there.
Exactly. Well, he's expressing his individuality through what the drill instructor taught him how to be, which was a killing machine.
Yeah, he's
ironically killing him.
Yeah, which he's becoming the perfect student.
Yeah, exactly. Which is brilliant, but I think the drill instructor made a mistake when he made Joker the head of all the other boot camp guys. What did he make him? Like he made him like the head of the
squad or whatever.
The head of the squad, something like that. Yeah. And I think that was a mistake because like he should have picked someone who was just a cog in the machine, not someone that would have been able to teach Pyle how to be like his own person, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that's the most fascinating part of the movie.
I mean, it's not a mistake for teaching a human being how to be an individual and you know whatnot. But in that context, it's probably what got him killed because otherwise he just would have been kicked out of boot camp.
Well, it's a mistake for him in his life in the context of the movie, not like in general. Yeah, of course. I think that's what makes the movie brilliant. I also think it's interesting because like oftentimes comedians are the only people that can, especially nowadays, that can say a truth without like feeling like they're making a political statement or, you know, like sort of just saying something online and, you know, for laughs, but it also having some semblance of truth and individuality and standing out from the crowd. I think there's some analogies you could sort of draw. I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I thought he was really like just in general. I mean, the amount of like racial tension that was building at that point in America too, it was like right up to the Rodney King shit. And there's lots of that character Animal
Right.
Is like they should all hang, like says a bunch of terrible shit that people object to, but like nobody swings on him. Nobody. And that's kind of a fucked up scene. Like I heard that again. You're just like, whoa, that didn't register the same way when I was a child. Obviously it registered that it was bad, but it wasn't like, holy shit, how is he not getting punched in the face right now or something, you know? And there's a lot of things. It's weird when he sits down with 8 Ball, who's clearly nicknamed 8 Ball because he's black.
Right. I thought about that today.
But sits down with 8 Ball and then is like, yeah, thank God for the sickle cell or something. The dude just like nods it off. And you're like, what? But the thing is what it indicates is like how prevalent racism is. I mean, listen to what the drill sergeant is saying in the beginning. He's like, there's going to be no fried chicken and watermelon for you, Snowball. And he calls him Snowball because he's black and it's ironic. You know, it's just like it's all of that shit is so prevalent that I don't think he's like putting that in the film because he's a racist. He is putting that to exemplify how commonplace racism was and the fact that to be a functioning infantryman, to be a regular soldier, you're fighting side by side with all these Confederate flag wearing racist motherfuckers, and you kind of become brothers regardless. So it's another, he's speaking to that duality, you know, that peculiar, the same thing that Joker talks about when he's, you know, when the guy comes up and asks about the peace sign and the Born to Kill.
Right, exactly.
It's that he's speaking to that same level of duality with those scenes. And
so it's really funny.
Fucking social justice warriors will interpret it the wrong way and be like, this should be removed. And it's like, no, motherfucker,
dude, you have to show it.
Yes, you are missing the point.
The things that hit me the hardest this time around, actually, like I think are both related to that. So when 8 Ball is shot by the sniper, it's Animal Mother that is the most angry and the most like wants to like stop at nothing.
Yeah, he's like, 8 Ball's out there. He's the first one to object.
So there's a weird there's something very interesting about like obviously these guys they're playing 18-year-old soldiers. They grew up in whatever environment they grew up in. They probably didn't meet somebody. Some of these guys didn't meet somebody from another race until they got into the Marines. 100%. So now all of a sudden they're thrust into this thing. They have all their biases, all their bullshit, and they use the same terrible language they did before. But now all of a sudden it's like that guy's life depends on me, and vice versa.
Yeah,
and like that moment, like where it's like it's really like Animal Mother almost just like ran out into the field and was like, I'm gonna kill everybody because it's like that's my guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I may talk shit and I might say terrible things to him, but he's with me. Yeah. In a weird way, it's like their racism towards the Vietnamese is stronger than their racism amongst one another.
I mean, but either way, it just puts all of it on blast. Yeah. It's all there. All of that hatred, all that ignorance is just stewing around and swirling around.
And the other thing is
coexisting with like you said, like like his racist thoughts, but he's still his brother. So it's like that duality. Yeah. Like basically, you have to somehow be an individual while being completely a cog in this machine. Like basically they all become the cogs in the machine the drill sergeant wanted them to be. Like they all become killing machines, but like they have to cling on to some individuality.
So to me, like the soap scene is so upsetting when the bars of soap, and the worst part is Joker because he's the one that you want. Right. And what's great about Modine's performance is like you can see his frustration and you can see how he's like, yeah, listen, I tried to help this guy. I tried to do the right thing, but this guy is fucking up and he's making my life harder. So Joker's like the one who's really doing it out of anger, which is so much harder to like swallow. But then he also like, it made me just like, I had this thing about like, I don't like mobs. I don't like that mob mentality. I don't like when people are picking on like the weak person. It really makes me angry.
Yeah, but he has to sit there and just deal with it.
And I think
as he's whimpering, like that's the most disturbing part is when you're hearing him in the aftermath of it, just like,
the way he like D'Onofrio is fucking incredible because I don't like. I'm not going like, oh, that's great acting. Like he sounds like he's like whimpering like a baby. Like that's actually really brilliant when he does it because it seems so believable.
Well, knowing Kubrick, do you think they really had him? Do you think they really had him beat him up like that? Like knowing Kubrick, they might have fucking.
I think they probably rocked him pretty well. Yeah,
I was looking.
There was definitely some weight in this. You know what I mean? Like the socks are not hitting Like there's something
but, dude,
holding the socks
D'Onofrio
down.
was next level brilliant to be as young as he was. That scene when he's on top of the obstacle course that they have to climb over. He's on top of that ladder thing, and he's like kind of like he's kind of crying and scared. He just looks so legitimately scared and whatever. Like Joker's talking him through it. I mean, that whole scene is so brilliant. And then when he's holding the M14 and he lets out that little like orgasmic gasp right before he knows that he's gonna pull the trigger, he's like, ah. It's just fucking bananas, bro. Like that level of acting, to think that that's the same motherfucker from Men in Black that was like, oh, sugar. You know, you're like, what?
Or did 10 years of Law and Order, Criminal Intent.
What? But he's a monster, man. People hate on him, but he's a beast. He played.
He's known for being really difficult to work with. There's some
he was in Daredevil, bro. He was in Daredevil, and only the first 2 seasons of that show were fire. The third one, he was fire, but the show was pretty garbanious. But like his bro, he got so fat for that show though that I legitimately did not know it was him until I was like 6-7 episodes in, and suddenly I was like, holy shit, bro! Is that Vincey D'Onofrio's? Like it just.
He famously was like hospitalized when he was on Law and Order. He's the lead character, and they had to like stop shooting, and like the rumors from like the crew was like, yeah, he's hospitalized. Like he literally like I think he had a breakdown, and everyone was like, fuck that guy. He's such a pain in the ass to work with. But it's like that's kind of the deal with working with a guy at that level is they're not necessarily going to be a fucking easy.
It's just so weird watching him crush it, and he's just surrounded by mediocrity, or just not even but just some pretty subpar actors. You know, it's fucking Law and Order, and like he's just crushing it. You're like, this has to be exhausting.
I think that's kind of like that's what amazing actors have to deal with all the time, though. You know what I mean? It's like
not all the time though, because when there's that perfect dynamic, you know, when they set up that environment right, it's like, and people are feeding off each other. Like Daniel Day-Lewis isn't doing too many films with fucking John Stamos. You know what I'm saying? Like It just doesn't.
No disrespect to John Stamos.
Yo, shouts to Johnny Staines, bro. He's straight monster. Can
you imagine if Daniel Day-Lewis just does like a guest spot on Fuller House just for fucking?
I would watch the shit out of that, dude. That would be so good.
Because listen, I love acting. I appreciate people like Daniel Day-Lewis, but I also like the guys that are like don't take themselves too seriously. Do you know what I mean? Like, because there are guys that like Matt Damon will just show up in a cameo in a movie.
Dude,
like,
Matt Damon in Euro Trip with Scotty doesn't know. That's a legendary cameo. Like you're a fucking beast for doing that.
But that tells you that guy is so cool that he's like, fuck it, I'll just do that for fun. Do you know what I mean? Like he doesn't take himself too seriously, or like even like the way McConaughey was just like popping up and shit.
Bread for that though, I'm sure he probably got paid more than like the kids who started it.
I wonder. I mean, how big of a budget did they actually?
I think he probably did it as a favor.
You think?
I don't think they got Matt Damon money sitting around. They're like they're like, hey, like sometimes some of these guys they'll just.
They had Fred Armisen money. They had that Viscusi bread, bro.
There you go.
Oh, you're right. That was Fred Armisen.
That's
low. And there's a weird Euro Trip. That is a good movie, dude.
Yeah, they got incest jokes and everything. The twins make out, bro.
That movie surprised the shit out of me.
Yeah,
I did not expect to like it as much as I did.
I have to watch that again. That was really funny. I forgot.
Scotty doesn't know the piano and me.
Yeah, I'm reading an article. There's an article. So Eurotrip was written by 3 guys I went to college with. This is a quote from Matt Damon. So Eurotrip was written by 3 guys I went to college with: Alex Schaefer, Jeff Berg, and Dave Mandel. I was in Prague shooting The Brothers Grimm. We were in rehearsals, and I had a wig in that movie. And so Alec and Dave and Jeff were making Eurotrip, and they were like, will you come play this, Henry Rollins kind of insane bad version of a suburban, punk band guy? And he's like, yeah, I'm in Prague. All right, so Matt Damon's pretty cool. But it was his friend.
Yeah, that's fire.
Yeah.
But it was homies, yeah. So
Daniel Day-Lewis would not.
So they barely paid him, I bet. Yeah, they got away with not even paying Matt. That's awesome.
They probably have cocktails and a blowhito.
Yeah. What was the chick in that movie? Michelle Trachtenberg or whatever? Always had a thing for her.
What? Yeah, I mean, clearly, if you know her name, bro, I can't even picture her face.
She was Harriet the Spy, dude. I had a crush on her from when I was like 4 years old. Do you remember Harriet the Spy?
I didn't see this becoming a Euro Trip fucking podcast. Are you guys
Kubrick
guys?
Yeah, heavy. Doctor Strangelove, all that.
Yeah, I was just listening. There's an interview of him on YouTube. It's just the audio from like the early 60s. And sometimes I just like listen to it. He's like one of my favorite characters in Hollywood.
Yeah, he's a G. He was a great orator too. He had kind of that Alan Watts steez. Like he was just he's a cool dude, man.
Yeah, and I think like there's you can get lost. You can lose a weekend watching YouTube videos on Stanley Kubrick conspiracies about like faking the moon landing, and all this other stuff. Yeah, but Kubrick's the perfect person for that because he lived such a weird kind of existence where he just didn't fly anywhere, didn't like leave his house for years, and like this movie was shot in England, which is another crazy thing about this. So like even that's another thing that's really interesting is that this Vietnam doesn't look like the Vietnam in any of the other movies because they decided to make it an urban film and not like a jungle film. Yeah, which is so they found some like old abandoned like gas like factory. I don't know what you call it, the gas refinery.
But that's what I was thinking. In some of the scenes when they're walking through and they've got their guns and like everything's on fire, it's so much more. It just doesn't seem as manufactured as even like great modern war films like Black Hawk Down and shit like that. Those still seem more manufactured somehow than like this. Just there's like rubble and shit is just on fire and it's I don't know, man. It's legit.
It looks like ruins, and it was filmed like big shots, like master shots, like huge.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Is like Kubrick is just the master of like shot making and angles and cinematography. Everything is always just so clean. His lighting is so beautiful. Like that scene where they join up with the other platoon or whatever, and they're walking behind the tanks, and like one of the dudes like a landmine blows up or something, and they all hit the deck, and he zooms in on like 5 different dudes' faces. And it's just incredible, man. It's just like the way he mixes up those shots and their facial expressions, the sweat on their faces and shit. It was just beautiful.
Yeah, he broke a lot of rules. Like the zoom done wrong would be like look like a cartoon. Yeah. But like he does it so well.
And the soundtrack was good money, bro.
Yeah, fucking
These boots were made for walking, and that's just what they'll do.
Yeah, and then she walks off. She's like,
Buku, me love you long time.
That whole scene, bro. How about the scene where she's like, no, Buku too large, too big, Buku. She's talking about the black dude's dick.
She's like, no, too Buku.
And he's like, this is an Alabama black snake.
Her pimp is like, she say no soul brother.
No, she's like, no soul brother. Yeah.
No soul brother. It's so bad. It's hilarious.
That's very funny. That's insane. We have like 6 minutes left, just letting you know, on the Zoom.
Oh, damn.
Son. Yeah, we're not paying for Zoom anymore. So that's okay, man.
We ain't paying for the Zoomies, huh?
Yeah. Well,
I think it was really cool how it is very anti-war in the sense that like they highlight shit that like how they change the terminology from search and destroy to sweep and clear. Like little things like that are just a microcosm of how the American government and military kind of treated the entire situation over there, which I think is great, man. I mean, there was a bunch of political satire, just a bunch of the whole scene with the gunner. Yeah, that's one of the darkest, and the dude sitting there going,
yeah. So the screenplay was written by Michael Herr, who was he was a journalist during Vietnam, and there's a lot of this stuff Michael Herr also wrote the voiceover for Martin Sheen in Apocalypse Now, which is why Kubrick contacted him. And he apparently that scene of the gunner is actually based on a real incident.
I mean, that scene is just so. Well, of course, it's based on. I mean, there were allegedly tons. If you look at all the different incidents of like My Lai massacre type shit that happened in Vietnam, of course there were dudes that had just gone insane, and it was also a draft. So like, how many serial killers do we coincidentally draft? It's just a numbers game, bro. So there's literally dudes over there, as you can see in the scene clearly. There's like women and children. There's people working in rice fields, and he's like, get some, get some, ha ha. He's like, got you, motherfucker. It's just like, bro, that whole scene is so brutal, and if you don't have a different perspective on war and warfare and wartime after watching that film, you watch the same movie, bro. It's just like, it's crazy. When he goes, any women or children? And he's like, sometimes. He goes, how can you shoot women and children? He goes, easy. You just don't lead them as much. Ain't war hell? And then he laughs again. You're just like, oh shit, bro.
Yeah. It's crazy. And it's crazy to think that this was like 45 years ago that this was actually happening.
Well, and you have to imagine there's still shit that has to be as morbid and brutal as that, of course, because there's still war. The dude, when he's posing with a dead body,
And he's like, yeah, this is my friend. You want to take a good picture? This is my friend. You know, I mean, it's just like
you have to make those jokes. I feel like when you're over there, because like it's just around you all the time, and I don't know. I mean, I feel like you have to sort of make it normal somehow.
Almost every Kubrick movie like works as a black comedy too. Like I mean, we're laughing now. Like some of the like a lot of this stuff is horrendous. And you can't you laugh and then, but that's why these movies stay with you is because you laugh and then later you think about why you were laughing. Yeah. And you're like, oh, that's gross. It's fucked up that I was even laughing at that. Yeah. Shit.
Or I mean, just some of the things just really stick with the line where he's like, inside every goop, there's an American trying to get out. You're just like, oh my fucking God, dog. Like that rationalizes the whole mentality of like spreading freedom anywhere we go in every situation we've ever done it.
I could totally see horrifying. I could see someone believing that, truly believing that.
And also, there are people who genuinely believe that. So ridiculous. There are trained killers who believe that. That's the scariest part.
And the fact that we said it, but like what the drill sergeant is doing, it works. Yeah. The reason that he does what he does is that it actually he's breaking these people.
You climb like old people fuck.
I mean, that's just pure comedy, that line. That's fucking hilarious, amazing. Dude. Yeah.
I didn't know they stacked shit that high. Like there's so many great lines in that movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, were you born a fat slimy piece of shit, or did you have to work at it? It's just like, oh my God.
I mean, he would crush in a comedy spec, like with his monologues in this movie. Like
if he just did crowd work and just shit on people with those lines, he would have been a crowd work.
This is how you deal with hecklers. This is how you just fucking break them, just smash their.
Who wrote that? Was he improvising at all, or was that just all written?
I think he did improvise. A
good percentage of it. It was just probably a bunch of shit he actually said, I'm sure, but
wild though how hilarious they come out.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. One of the best quotes from the film is, "If I'm gonna get my balls blown off for a word, then that word is poontang." Yeah. When an animal says that, that's sensational.
Oh man.
So Tait, have you been holding up, man? Do you have anything to like plug or anything you're working on?
Yeah, man. I mean, I've been recording a bunch of podcast episodes. Marcelo Hernandez and I are doing a podcast, Building Character. It's a show we had at the Stand, but then obviously there's no stand-up comedy indoors right now. So we're doing a little like Instagram live and then doing a podcast as well. That'll be up on Spotify and iTunes and all that.
What's it called, man?
It's called Building Character.
Boom. Building character.
And then at the beginning of the quarantine, the beginning of the pandemic, I did like a series of 14 different characters.
I think I saw a few Instagram.
Yeah, they're ridiculous, but they were just fun.
No, Tait's great. Guys, you have to give Tait. What's your social media? What do you got?
Winston_comedy on Instagram.
Yeah, everyone that's watching or listening has to follow Tait. He's fucking hilarious. I've seen Tait murder, and he just does some of the best characters and impersonations I've seen. So he's really, really funny.
He's the only guy who makes me laugh from The Flyer.
Yeah.
Like I'm already having a good time just looking at the fucking Flyer.
Yeah, I miss making those, man, so bad.
We'll be back, baby. We'll be back.
Yeah.
Straight.
All right, man. Tait, thank you so much for doing this. Really
thanks so much,
having you on.
Man. Really,
I appreciate you, boys. This was awesome.
All right. Peace out, guys.
All right, y'all.
Later.